Well, hello, and welcome to another edition of my movie channel. Today will be the 1971 Stanley Kubrick film. Alex DeLarge is the leader of a gang in future dystopian Britain. The gangs are known as Droogs, and they spend most of their nights beating up other gangs, beating up transients. They also steal cars for joyrides in the country, running off other vehicles for fun. They stage a home invasion and beat up the couple and rape the woman. Alex is a bully and a psychopath, and he terrorizes his own gang members, even though he's charming on the surface. Naturally, this alienates him from his gang, and they turn on him when they're robbing some crazy old cat lady in the countryside. Alex gets arrested and sentenced for the murder of the cat lady, 14 years. Oh yeah. But he has planned to get out early when he volunteers for this weird experiment that's supposed to get rid of his violent tendencies. He agrees, which this treatment will give him an aversion to violence. Obviously, it's a bit painful. Not sure if he really wants to do this, but yes. It does free him. And he gets to his parents' apartment, but finds out that his room has been rented out to some guy. So he has nowhere to stay. Wandering the streets homeless, some of the transients that he terrorized find him and decide to beat him up. He gets rescued by some of his former gang members who are now policemen. Very corrupt policemen who tried to take him out to the countryside and beat and drown him. Obviously, they've done this before. So he'll seek shelter at the home of the couple that he raped and beat up. At first, the writer is sympathetic and wants to use Alex against the government. But he recognizes Alex when he sings Singing in the Rain. And he gets a flashback to that horrible night and decides he wants revenge. The writer conspires for revenge and locks the guy in a room and plays Beethoven's Ninth, which inadvertently he also has developed an aversion to. He can't take the song and decides to kill himself by jumping out the window. He wakes up in a hospital and finds out that he's become a kind of martyr for the government's policies. And the government decides they're going to throw the people that were doing this treatment under the bus and reverse the treatment. And also give them a nice cozy government job. Okay, this 1971 Kubrick film was very controversial when it was released. It originally got an X rating in the United States until some scenes were cut. It also met with mixed reviews. It still managed to garner 4 Academy Award nominations. The film was accused of inspiring copycat acts of violence in the UK, and Kubrick voluntarily had the film withdrawn from the UK. It wasn't made available until after Kubrick's death in 1999. The film's main themes are the morality of mentally reconditioning behavior. Is this right? The main character is played brilliantly by Malcolm McDowell. He is at once a charismatic youth who is also a total psychopath. Watching this film, I had no sympathy for the main character. I found it positive that this guy was actually neutered and couldn't harm anyone. In a way, he was getting what he was deserved. But is it right for the government to condition people? Could this be abused and used on those that don't have the right opinion? The government is shown as very opportunistic. They embrace this technique to help with prison overcrowding. In fact, the minister states they want room for political prisoners. Yet when popular opinion turns against the technique, they throw those responsible under the bus and reverse it. Alex gets a cushy government job as compensation. And it's implied that he will continue on with his psychopathic ways to the detriment of society. The screenplay was adapted from a novel by Anthony Burgess. At first, Burgess got along great with Kubrick, but over time the relationship soured. He didn't like having to defend the violence in the movie. Also, it didn't include his original ending, where Alex is reformed and goes on to lead a positive life. Instead, he uses the American version, which didn't have that ending. Like Kubrick, I think this ending implying that Alex goes back to his old ways is much more realistic. Psychopaths never change. Interesting bit of trivia is the Singing in the Rain song Alex does as the rape scene was improvised by both McDowell and Kubrick. Did this before making sure they secured the rights. Obviously they didn't. Apparently Fred Astaire reportedly has a real hatred for them for using that song. This was an enjoyable movie. It makes you think. I mean, the violence and stuff is probably a bit tame nowadays, sadly. But still, I enjoyed it. I think if you have an aversion to rape scenes and violence, you probably should avoid it, and I understand that. But it's a very interesting movie. I heard about it and only just recently decided to get some Kubrick movies, and I've really enjoyed his stuff. I know that over time, apparently, a lot of people also decide to. So I could recommend it. It's an interesting movie. So thanks a lot for sticking with me to the end. If you did, you're a very unique individual. Thanks a lot.
Get me up. I want to be sick. Get something for me to be sick in.
Very soon now, the drug will cause the subject to experience a death-like paralysis, together with deep feelings of terror and helplessness.
I can't stand it anymore.
One of our early test subjects described it as being like death, a sense of stifling or drowning. And it is during this period we have found that the subject will make his most rewarding associations between his catastrophic experience of environment and the violence he sees.
Leave me glasses!
Dr. Brodsky is pleased with